Well, we'll see how this goes. Okay, so usually I do a 1 hour presentation. So I've trimmed a little bit out and then I'm going to talk really fast. So this is our mini Solar 101. And these are all homes or businesses that are local here in like the Dayton regional area. So we've got, everything from barns to homes to the NAACP in Dayton that have went solar through our programs. So we are a vendor neutral national nonprofit. So what that means is whenever we help with that selection process, the co-op is the one selecting it. So whenever we have a solar co-op in an area, it is the members that are voting for who they want to work with from the local installers that bid on it. And we don't have a preference on that. We just do the background vetting to make sure that they're real companies, that they're reputable in the area, and that they'll do a good job for you. So we help people go solar, join together and fight for their energy rights. So whenever we're not doing solar cooperatives, we work on things like right now, House Bill 197, which is for community solar here in Ohio. So if we're not doing, one thing, then we're doing policy work in a different part of it. So Ohio's program has been in place since 2015. We've helped a little over 600 households now to go solar through our cooperative programs. That's about 4.5 megawatts of installed capacity, which has helped to create 90 jobs across the state of Ohio with those local solar installers. That helps to put over $12 million back in the local economy, where we're making a circular energy system where it's produced locally, installed locally. So one of the other things that we do is work for equity. So we're all very used to those pictures on the right, the landfills and the coal type production for energy. But what we want to see is a more locally distributed energy grid, which you can see on the left-hand side, or once they've capped those landfills, the community installations that can make clean energy on those places that we can't use for much else. So the solar co-op process, right now we are in this column 1, steps 1 through 3, where we're doing learning sessions like this one, or longer ones like we'll be holding. The next one is on November 30th at the Clark County Library in Springfield. And we do, the whole little class, tell you what solar is, what the process is like to get it put on your roof, what you can expect from it, what the kind of costs are for it, how you can get it financed. Then we have you sign up online if you're interested in it and talk to your friends and neighbors about it. Step 4 is happening next week on November 20th. So right now, if you get signed up, you can be a part of that process. So on the 20th, we'll have an hour to 2 hour long meeting where we'll talk about all of the bids that have been submitted for the co-op. Every one of those is with a local small installation company. So those are all going to be, people from this area of the state that are getting jobs because of being hired through the programs. And then we will have everybody will look over the bids. We give all the information on a spreadsheet so that it's easily comparable. And then we'll have a bunch of question and answer throughout the evening. And at the end of it, we'll vote. And whoever wins gets to be the installer. And that's how we get that bulk rate from them. So that'll be on November 20th. And if it's something you're interested in, whenever you register for the co-op, you can just check off you'd like to be on the selection committee. And then we'll enter steps 5 through 8, which is whenever the installer will start reaching out to the households, registering them for the co-op, and getting them their rooftop proposal. We don't hand over any names from the co-op until we've done the initial check to make sure that your household will even fit into the criteria for solar working on it, not too much shading and everything else. And if it doesn't, then we don't hand your information to them because you don't need those calls and texts from somebody trying to sell you something. We don't do any sales or installation, so we're not going to do any of those calls trying to do that to you. If you do decide to go solar through the co-op, it is a contract directly with that installer. We're still there for consumer support and advocacy, but we don't have any part in that contract itself. You'll get your installation, and then sometime next year, we'll have a big party where we get everybody together that went solar, have some pizza, have a bunch of pictures of the systems, get some prizes, all that fun stuff. So how do solar panels work? So we all know what solar panels look like, and we think of them as solar panels, but they're also known as solar photovoltaics or solar PV, which convert the solar energy into electricity. And those panels are comprised of several different layers. On the top, the outside, what you can touch and feel is glass. They have an aluminum frame, and then that encapsulates the solar cells themselves because they want those panels to last outside in the weather for 20 to 25 years, which is what all the manufacturers are currently warranting them for, so that they don't have to have any type of replacement done. So you know that you're going to keep producing energy at the original rate for at least, that 20 or 25 years, or the manufacturers will pay for replacement. So they don't want to do that. They're going to make sure they work that long. Some of the other system pieces that you get to see is the racking. So there's got to be something that holds it onto the roof or up in the yard. And so this is your racking. So in this first top corner here is what you see on a shingle roof. If you had a cement roof, like on a business flat rooftop, they might do a ballasted system. If you have a metal roof, they have little clamps that they use that holds that onto those. And if you have a big space like a farm and you're putting it into the fields, they have the ground mount. The ground mount usually has a little bit of additional cost because of trenching and because they have to build those racks to sit it on. Where on the rooftop, it usually costs a little bit less because there's no trenching and they're mounted straight onto the house. One of the system components that a lot of people don't know about, though, is the inverters. So this is what actually changes the DC that's coming off of those solar panels into AC that your household can use. Many of the new systems on rooftops are going to the microinverters, which is a little tiny device on the back of each panel. But in some cases, like at my house, we still have string inverters with the DC optimizers. So there's a little device on the back of each panel that helps to balance the loads throughout the day. But for the most part, all of our energy goes into the big device that's on the wall in the basement and changes it all over at once down there. A piece that you already have in your house, your electric panel. So if you have a house that was made, 1960 or earlier, you may need a panel update. Don't tell me about that. We don't want to know if you're outside of code, but if you are outside of that, the electric installers will help you to get, that found out. Or if you've got a very full panel, which is what we had in our house. We have 2 electric cars. So our panel that was 150 amps is no longer cutting it. By the time we were trying to add solar and other electric appliances in. So we had to go through a panel update to a bigger one. So most of the time, most people don't need a panel update. But if you do, that's something you can have done. It's a little additional cost, but it's easier to have it done while they're already there doing things to your system because you don't have to call an electrician out and go through that later. So what is a good rooftop for solar? They're going to look at the orientation here in the Northern Hemisphere. A southern facing home is best. East and west work pretty well. But if you only have a north face to your roof, it's not going to be the best fit for it. It's going to be an odd shaped house if you only have a north roof. But, to each their own with that. If you've got a lot of shading, we love our tree canopy. The tree canopy is super important for sequestering carbon, but it does make your house a little less eligible for solar. So we do not want you to cut down those trees. We want you to keep them, but just be aware that you're going to want those there to cool your house during the summer, to provide shade, to sequester that carbon. So you might not be able to get solar if you do have a bunch of trees. You want to have enough space to mount panels. It doesn't take a lot of space. We're only looking for 250 or so square feet, but they want it to be a more linear space. So if you've got a whole bunch of dormers or if you've got a round roof, some sort of weird oddities to the roof shape, it might be a little bit of a problem, but for the most part, most people, that one isn't so much of a issue. The big one that we catch all the time is how old your roof is. So if you've been in your house 25 years, you've never had your roof replaced, and you're probably looking at that needing to happen soon, you're going to want to do the roof first so that you don't have to have the panels immediately taken back off because it takes additional funds to have them taken down, stored, put back up, and we don't want you to have that additional cost to incur. So you want a newer roof or at least 10 years or less in age. So in Ohio, we have something called net metering. That is whenever you produce extra energy. So like during the day today, my system was producing somewhere around 7 to 8 kilowatts most of the time. My house was only using one because we weren't running a bunch of appliances. We didn't have any cars plugged in. So I had a bunch of extra energy going out to the grid. And the whole time that was happening, the power company was giving me credits to be using now whenever the sun isn't out. So overnight, instead of being billed for my power, I'm just using down those credits that I use during the day. So that's called net metering. That's whenever that bidirectionality of your utility meter kicks in. AES, which I'm assuming is most of your providers in this area, they do a 1-to-1 credit ratio as well, and will let you apply it toward your distribution and transmission fees if you have extra. And then some optional components are the energy consumption monitor. Most of the time, those are built in. That's an open inverter box that has it circled in it. That lets you see both what your system is producing as well as what your household is using. And that way you have a full picture of your energy. The battery backup, which is really nice for a day like today. In my case, we heard a big boom. That was a transformer blowing up. So the rest of the neighborhood plunged into darkness. I lost my internet, but I did have power still because my battery backup kicked in. My solar was still producing. So I didn't have any drop in power the same way everybody else did. If you're in an area that has frequent outages, if grandma is on oxygen in your living room and you don't want her to turn off, those are all good reasons that you might want to have battery backup in your own home. And then the EV charging options are also nice. If you're thinking about an EV, maybe you want a hardwired unit. If you're not, I still suggest at least considering the outlet. Most of our installers will put those in fairly inexpensive, $200 to $300 while they're there doing your solar, because they've already purchased all the wiring and everything else. Where if you have to have them out separately, they're going to charge those like fees for showing up. They're going to charge the fees for the wire and everything else. So nice to get it bundled all at once. Plus you can take the full 30% federal tax credit on all parts of it that you purchase all at one time. And that's our federal tax credit. So we were down to 26%, but whenever the Inflation Reduction Act passed last year, just about 13 months ago, it renewed the federal tax credit to 30%. That is good through 2032. So we're not too worried about talking about the sunset dates. But if you aren't looking at solar right now, if you're looking at it well into the future, do know that it'll expire off slowly. 2033, it'll be down to 26%. And 2034, it will be down to 22%. But that works on every single part of it. So the labor, the installation, all the pieces and everything. So this is an example of some pricing. The average system size in Ohio is 6 kilowatts. We went with 5 and 10 just because they're easier for people to do math in their head with. But let's say that you got that 5 kilowatt system. Our pricing for most of our co-ops is coming in somewhere around $2.70 a watt. So that means the system would come in right around $13,000, which is going to give you a federal tax credit of $4,000. Meaning your net cost is going to be $9,450. So we conservatively estimate all the time on what your energy savings will be. And this doesn't include any type of future increases if your electric bills go up. But we estimate about $1,000 a year in savings, meaning over the lifetime of a system, you can expect to actually be profiting a little bit from it. As you're not paying electric bills, you're paying for your solar, it eventually gets paid off. And so you hit that point of parity where you end up with making money back anytime you're not paying for that electric bill and you're no longer paying for the solar. So this is the point at which if you want to join, we're up to 52 people now, but I didn't update this slide today. This is our co-op. You can find a scan code up front for signing into it, or you can email me later. And if you're looking for a website, it's solarunitedneighbors.org/Miami Valley. That'll take you straight to this co-op page. And if you don't remember that or anything else, we've got a little search bar up there at the top. It's really easy to find things on our website. that's my information. So if you're looking to get a hold of me directly, Ohio team at solarunitedneighbors.org is the easiest way. Somebody will answer you there pretty quick. If it's not myself, it'll be one of my teammates. But hope to hear from all of you. And if we've got some questions and answers coming up here later, so we'll catch those at the end.